calculated it all out. And this is
Surprising.
double-edged
Okay.
and super sharp.
Super sharp for humans. Computers know it's a draw.
Okay,
Zero,
so
zero. I'm never
how
gonna.
is it a draw?
We're not
okay,
friends.
so here we go. G4.
G4.
Here it comes.
I have a feeling we'll just take a look at it because the
Rook
rook is very
takes-
good
Rook
at catching the
Look
pawn,
at
Okay.
and the knight is just in time to capture the a pawn. You actually
well.
switch the g pawn for the a pawn,
uh-huh.
and well, it's still complicated because I mean there's a lot to consider with 3 minutes for black, 45 seconds for white. Anything can happen.
Right.
But
Most likely a draw.
most likely a draw.
Okay,
So
he's
there we
reaching
go.
for his
G3.
G pawn, and he has played G3.
Yes. Now you can start pushing with white.
A4.
A4 is the way to do it. You don't have time to play G2 and knight H3. The pawn just runs
Too fast.
Okay.
too fast.
Okay, so we're going to see A4.
Well, he still
And
has,
he's reaching for it.
and he has
Yeah,
30
yeah,
seconds
yeah.
per move to just think throughout, right? He doesn't have to make it until.
And
Yes.
Yeah.
A4, definitely the play of the moves.
And now it's
the
Mamedjarov
tempos
that has to be
increase.
careful.
Now it's Shaq.
So definitely, because I mean,
It's
the pawn
time-
on A4 is really
yeah,
fast.
no, it's time to bring back the knight.
Knight
right?
has to go back to E4. It's a
E4.
nice tempo, because if you play knight E4 and you answer with rook B1, I have knight C3.
Yeah.
Four king,
Four
the
king,
rook,
the rook, and the pawn. That is the way that you eliminate the pawn on
the A pawn.
on the A pawn. You could still give a check on F1, but that just helps my king come closer to the pawn, which will be
Be
lost.
supported.
Yeah, will be lost very, very quickly.
So knight E4. It is, by the way, knight E4 box as enforced.
Knight D3 is also a draw, but that one's more inhuman to me.
Right.
Knight E4 is the one I would do.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, knight D3 is some computer garbage that I don't
Right,
understand.
right, right,
Knight
right.
E4 I understand because you're taking away B1
Precisely.
from the rook.
Okay. Now on black's agenda, obviously,
So are we-
G2, and let's support the pawn with the king, as well as knight C5
Yeah.
to
Yes.
corral
And
the A pawn.
tactically, just to explain this, A5 is a move.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I'll play G2.
Okay.
You
then
must play rook B1.
Clear.
And now knight D2 will fork the pawn on A5 yet again. Because knight D2 attacks the rook.
And knight
the rook
B3
must
check.
move. Knight B3 check.
And this is the moment for knight C3. This is it.
I think G2 also works actually, but let me make
G2?
sure. Actually, everything works at this point. It says even
No
E5.
kidding.
Knight C5, E5, Knight C3 are all draws.
Oh my goodness!
So we
and
can
this
go
is like
knight-
a kind of a position where I would think there's only moves. Like
Nope.
you have to be very, very precise when you're
Just,
telling me.
just
like,
don't play G2. That move loses.
Only
Okay.
G2 is
Only
a blunder.
G2s.
Yeah, G2 is a
Okay.
blunder. So I'm surprised E5 draws actually, but that's what the computer says. So I'm not going to argue with it.
And
I'm
knight
shocked.
C5 just.
Knight C5 also just holds onto the pawn, and it says you put the knight on C5, you play E5, and you bring the king
Yeah.
back, and you don't have enough time. But again, a computer-like draw. I mean, as a human, I just play knight C3. Give me that pawn.
Exactly.
Give me that pawn, please, right now.
Let's
knight
get
C3,
rid of it.
very nice.
Let's get
But,
rid of
okay, knight
it,
C3,
please.
we have rook check.
Yes, but then comes king G5, and the king comes closer to the pawn.
Yeah, and then
The
you
knight
also-
will be able to go back to
To
B5.
B5,
Right.
yes.
It catches the pawn without any problems.
Right.
Knight C3 is what I would play.
Of course.
There are other draws. If you're a Mamedjarov fan and you see something else.
The time is Magnus has 44 seconds
So
and
90 seconds?
to 1 minute and 22. So probably 2 minutes.
Knight
is reaching
for his knight.
And we are seeing. I think we're going to see knight C3. No, or
Knight C5. Okay, which is also a draw. It has a very similar idea to the other ones that we were looking at, in which the knight just stops the pawn and you bring in the king.
So A5, king E5
So no,
or
does he have to
something?
be accurate? King
Yes.
is E5.
Yes, king E5 is the only move. You couldn't play king G5 in this case because rook B5 wins the knight.
Oops.
Yeah.
So you have to go through E5, and this is
got you.
completely fine.
Okay.
Now, if you are Magnus Carlsen
You're
and you need to make
going
a draw,
king A2.
pretty much
King
any
A.
move, it will be okay. King B2
B2.
included.
Two.
Yes, that's completely fine.
Okay. King
King
F4, going after the rook. He wants to go king F3, G2, king F2.
And I
take
think the
rook.
rest is kind of simple for these players.
Yes.
Okay, but can he just crisscross with his king?
Well, king
Then he goes
c3,
king c3.
king c3, c4 hits the knight, and he'll chase the knight. He'll hunt the knight and force a repetition.
It's in G.
G2. So you'll swap. Basically, everybody's going to be swapped off, right?
Will we see king versus king?
Yeah, or king versus knight or something like along
Right.
these lines.
Okay, so how does so let's work this. So how does
We're
this work?
expecting king c4, and
Then the
knight a6,
knight a6, and
king
then king
b5,
b5,
knight c7
knight
check,
check, and then king goes to b6.
6.
I mean, the problem is this is a completely useless rook, right?
Right.
It doesn't actually capture the knight anywhere.
Right.
Unless it's a check.
Exactly. The rook is
No, but the
always
king-
keeping an eye
okay,
on
so
the
you're-
g2
You're
pawn.
just okay, so you're just going to dance around with the knight.
Precisely. The
Very
useless
nice.
rook.
The useless rook.
King b5. And now, stumble under the knight. Both moves are a draw. Both knight
Knight
c7 and knight b8.
I'd probably be inclined myself towards knight b8 because, again, you've spoken about the useless rook. If you move your king, I'll move my king, and you can't take the knight. So I think I would be inclined for knight b8.
There's a couple of tactical details where knight c7, knight d5, you can
got
still play
knight
knight
b8.
c3, which also makes it tempting. Like you can play knight c7, knight d5, knight c3. A lot of the time hits the rook with a tempo.
Okay.
But knight b8, I think, is also what I would have played. Like
Right.
Simpler.
Yeah.
Now every move is a draw for white. I don't think there's a single one that
And can
loses,
he
which doesn't play rook
sacrifice-
f1.
I
Can
mean,
you sacrifice what?
can you let the pawn win the knight pawn, promote the pawn, and then just run? No, not really. Can you? That's wishful thinking on my behalf.
No, I think I think we're going to see king b6.
I think- oh, he's gone back.
King
It
c4?
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter? Why
you
does it
sure?
matter?
Not that I understand this move, but it doesn't matter.
Really?
Yes.
e5? You can't take the knight?
Okay, but e5,
No, but
I can
E5
play
king-
rook
king-
g1, take on g2 and king d5.
Oh, of course, of course.
I mean, I can always make it draw.
Okay, okay, very good. Okay, so king e5, pardon me, king c4. If e6, e5, the rook would go to g1 and sacrifice itself.
There's a lot of ways to make it
So
draw.
he's reaching for his knight, presumably to play knight
I
a6.
would assume so.
And we're expecting king b5 in a repetition. What a game!
Can he run with
really.
the king? Can he run with the king towards?
Well, we just had this position, right? This is
Right.
the repetition.
That
Yeah,
would
I'm
be-
just thinking he could no, because then you just go just king d3, and then you just go king,
King
f3.
I block the king.
Yeah, you can
from
imagine if you remove the knight, the white pawn, and the pawn on e6, it's a draw, right?
Clear.
So there should be no reason why that king can come back.
No.
Yeah, and I think
And
we
we
will
are in
going to see
repetition.
the draw.
Well, I mean, okay, the drawing virus, we know in classical chess a draw is most common.
Exciting
result.
draws, though.
But we have seen great draws.
We
Great
have
draws,
seen
yeah.
absolutely fighting chess, here. I don't think we can be.
Here next to us, yay! What a game! Magnus Carlsen
That was something.
keeps his streak alive.
Yes,
Undefeated.
undefeated for 71 games, 332 days.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a Twilight Zone. It was this man, Shaq, who last defeated Magnus Carlsen in the classical game. What are the mathematical odds that Shaq might have won again
Yes.
and stopped the streak?
They looked close, didn't
He
they? I have to say,
sure
it did
did.
look close for a while.
What?